Did you know that Apple sued Microsoft in the 1980s for stealing the look and feel of their operating system and infringing copyright? Hi and welcome back to another episode of The Case Files. In today's episode, we'll be discussing the case of Apple Computers versus Microsoft Corporation, which is a landmark judgment which has shaped the technology-based world that we live in today. Let's get started. So what happened in this case? In 1988, Apple filed a case against Microsoft in the district courts of the United States, claiming that they copied certain elements, including the look and feel of the Apple operating system. To understand this case, we must go back to the early days of personal computing. Apple's Macintosh was a groundbreaking computer with a graphical user interface and a mouse, setting it apart from the command-line interfaces of other machines which existed at the time. Microsoft wanted to achieve a similar user-friendly experience in their Windows operating system. Apple accused Microsoft of stealing their intellectual property, but Microsoft claimed that their Windows operating system was based on independent development and it did not violate any of Apple's intellectual property. Apple argued that Microsoft's use of overlapping windows, icons, and a mouse-driven interface was a violation of Apple's Macintosh operating system. In fact, they argued that it was a violation not only of copyright law but of patent law as well. Ultimately, the case came down to whether the overall look and feel of a user interface can be protected by copyright. The district court decided the case in favor of Microsoft and Apple appealed to the Ninth Circuit of the Court of Appeal of the United States. The Ninth Circuit also agreed with the decision given by the district court in favor of Microsoft. The circuit court differentiated between ideas and the expression of that idea. Now, under copyright law, only expressions of ideas can be protected and ideas itself cannot be protected by the law. The courts outlined 5 ideas that can be identified from the graphical user interface of a desktop. These are windows, icon images, manipulations of icons, menus, and the opening and closing of objects. Having identified these 5 ideas that exist in a graphical user interface, the courts went on to say that Apple cannot have a monopoly for these ideas and can only have protection for the precise expression of those ideas. The courts had to decide whether the overall look and feel of the user interface could be considered an expression of an idea or whether it was simply a functional element that cannot be protected by the law. In 1994, the Court of Appeal decided in favor of Microsoft and held that the look and feel of a graphical user interface was purely functional in nature and therefore could not be protected under copyright laws. Apple tried to appeal this decision to the Supreme Court of the United States, but that application was also denied. This case has had far-reaching implications on how software and user interfaces are protected by copyright law even today. It solidified the notion that elements of a user interface are purely functional and therefore cannot be protected by copyright law. The courts also avoided granting a look and feel copyright to the overall user interface. However, the judgment does allow for specific expressions of ideas in a user interface to be protected by copyright law, provided they satisfy the threshold requirement of originality. In fact, in the more recent judgment of Navitaire vs. EasyJet, the courts went on to say that certain aspects of a user interface can be protected as an artistic copyright. If you're interested in learning more about what aspects of a software can be protected by copyright law, you can check out my video on it. I'll put a link to it in the description below. Anyway, that's it for this episode. Thank you for watching and do consider liking this video and subscribing to the channel if you like this kind of content. I'll see you in another episode. Take care.